Welcome, everyone. Just getting a few more people in from the waiting room and we'll get started. All right. Welcome. You are attending Teaching Across Learning Environments. This is brought to you by Solved, as well as the New York State Department of Education and their TAIL Academy, which basically stands for Teaching Across Learning Environments. I would like you to know that you are being recorded and you will be sent the recording of this presentation as part of, you'll get all the materials as well as your professional development credit. So know that that's going to be coming later, but if you're uncomfortable being on camera, we understand. You do not have to have your camera on all the time. So here are our meeting norms. I would love if you take a minute to read them. My biggest promise to you is that we will start and end on time today, because again, I know your time is very precious and I appreciate you coming to spend it with me for this professional development. The other thing I really like to focus on is be here now. I know as teachers, you have so much that needs to be done, but please, the more present you can be with us, the more everyone will get out of this presentation. I appreciate everyone saying good afternoon in the chat. Welcome. I am so happy to be here with you on this beautiful Monday. My name is Dr. Caroline Hopenwasser, and I'm an instructional consultant at Solved. I am a doctor of literacy education in particular, and I've spent 20 years in public education. I started my career in public school, and then for about 14 years, I prepared teachers at State University of New York in New Paltz. And now I'd love to know a little bit about you. So in the chat, could you please share what grade or grades you teach or subjects you teach, as well as one thing you hoped to get out of coming here today? Why did you come? And if it's because someone told you to, that's okay too. You can say that. This is a place for honesty. So please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. And while you do that, I'm going to share our agenda today. So we have some essential questions. What does it mean to teach across learning environments? And what changes in mindset can I make to effectively do that? And how can I best integrate technology into effective instructional practices? And so our objectives are going to be to distinguish between ERT, which I'll explain what that means, and TAIL. Identify some strategies for a growth mindset to support ourselves to teach across learning environments, and identifies the components of good technology integration with two different models. So let's see who's here today. We've got all kinds of people here today. We've got K through 6, we've got ELA grade 8, we've got grade 7, social studies and restorative justice, 6-8 general music, 4th grade special ed. Gain knowledge to bring into the classroom to enhance student learning. Wonderful, Michelle. And if I say your name and I pronounce it incorrectly, I apologize. I'm going to do my best today. We've got early childhood. So we've got all kinds of grade levels. And what's great about this is you can take the strategies we'll be talking about today and the models we'll be talking about and apply them wherever, whatever you are teaching. 9th to 12th. We've got pre-K through 12th here today, people. We've got everybody. Wonderful. Thank you so much. We've got math, we've got science, we've got music. We have everyone. I want to share strategies with teachers of ELs. Wow, so many people here today. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing. I'm going to tell you right now, we're up to 70 people. All right, so let's get started. I want to share with you first something I call a note catcher, and it has all of the resources you'll need today and that you can use after this presentation. So I'm going to put the link into the chat. You're going to open it if you're able to and make a copy. And then you will have a lot of great information for now and later. So you'll have a copy of this slide deck is the first link, and then you'll have links to everything else that we do today. So go ahead, take a moment and open your note catcher just so you'll be ready. Oh, wow, y'all are still coming in. And let's take a temperature check. So I'm going to go back to slideshow. And so we're going to be talking about teaching with technology a lot today. So I'd love to get a temperature check of how you feel about it right now. Rate your feelings about teaching with technology right now. So 1 is I hate it. 5 is I love it. And then where you might be anywhere on a range of that. And I know it might be any given day. So we've got some, oh, look, nice. We got 3, we've got a 1, we've got some haters, we got some people who like it. I have, 1 5 here who loves it. Oh, yep. So we have a huge range of whether you hate it or love it. And I think that's going to make this interesting. And I hope you'll share and discuss with us as we move forward. People who hate it, lean into the mindset work. People who love it, think about what about it you love that you can share with us to help people who might be a 1, maybe shift to a 2. All right, now we've checked the room. Let's talk about some terms real quick. The first one I want you to think about is ERT. It stands for Emergency Remote Teaching. And every one of you did it in March of 2020. We all hit the pandemic and had to rapidly switch from in-person to entirely online. And it lacks the key qualities of effective online instruction just because you had no time to plan it. So one of these 3 qualities, time, effort, and planning, that's what research indicates we need as teachers to provide quality online instruction. And when we went from March, whatever, to 2 weeks later, we had to be online entirely. We didn't have any of those things to do. We put in a lot of effort, but because it was all triage, it wasn't effort in ways that were as impactful as we would like it to be. It was all trying to keep everybody alive. So I know that I was teaching at the university at that time. And so that's what we were doing. And it was even more so for you teaching smaller people out in public school who needed to be there all day, every day. So now New York State created the TAIL Academy because their objective was to take us from that emergency remote teaching into being able to do some intentional learning design that builds upon opportunities that different learning environments and formats can provide. So we learned a lot about teaching with technology during the pandemic. What can we do now in a thoughtful way where we're not under all of that duress, where we can thoughtfully integrate it into our instruction to help students? And it could be in person, where we're bringing technology into our classroom. It could be hybrid, where we have at home and in school. It could be online, synchronous, asynchronous, or flipped. So it's thinking of technology in a much broader way and how we can make it serve us now that we have come back out of the acute crisis of the pandemic. So we have to have some shifts in order to do that. So we want to shift from panic to preparedness. We want to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And we want to shift from pandemic pedagogy to resilient pedagogy. So we're going to talk about those things together now. So here's what I'd like to stop and acknowledge is that when we all shifted in that emergency situation from being in person to immediately online, it caused trauma in various ways. So how you experienced it may be different than how your teacher neighbor next door experienced it, and how your children experienced it may be different from how children in another school experienced it, but it was traumatic for everyone because it was a huge, scary ordeal. So we need to now look at our teaching through this trauma-informed lens. So we often think about trauma for our children, and here is a definition. A trauma-informed lens is a perspective of how the instructor views the child in the classroom. And with a trauma-informed perspective, a teacher can consider alternatives as to why a student might be acting in a certain way, and the teacher can respond in a way that will not cause additional trauma. Well, just like we have to think about our children that way, teaching in ERT conditions also cause trauma for us as teachers. So this session is going to help us address that trauma through growth mindset and a new framework for which to consider teaching across learning environments. So let's talk a little bit about growth mindset. When I say growth mindset, I know that as teachers, it's very probable that you are out there talking about growth mindset with your children already, whatever grade level it is. So if you look at our little diagram here, you have what is fixed and what is growth. And growth is we're looking to embrace new things, overcome challenges, learn new information, and just go for it. So talk to me for a moment, either in the chat, or I'd love it if you could come off of mute and share what are some ways you already inspire or engage your children that you teach with growth mindset right now. And I can't see all of you, so if you want to come off and talk, please feel free to do so.
I'd like to share. My name is Michelle, fourth grade special education, and just today alone, my students are preparing for the state test, and it's more of a, I can't do this. It's more of a, we can do this. How can we make you successful? And just helping them understand that they are very successful in where they go. They're just getting frustrated with the question at this time. So we're trying to gauge them into thinking otherwise and outside of the box instead of getting frustrated so easily.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. And state testing is an amazing example that I'm sure most teachers here can relate to today, because we're all doing that. Jennifer is in the chat put by celebrating progress rather than performance. Anyone else like to come off of mute and share with us today? The word can't is not used unless it's for a negative comment or issue. And we talk about the power of the word yet, Cheryl says, and there's a wonderful growth mindset TED Talk where that's all about the power of the word yet. So if you look that up, that's really a wonderful thing too. Thank you for sharing that. So here's where we're going with thinking about a growth mindset. And we're going to take it and think about it in terms of our own mindset around teaching across learning environments. So think about the rating you gave yourself. Not many people gave themselves a 5, where I love teaching online. It's amazing. There is a range. So there's room for growth for everyone. And the people who gave themselves a 5, there's still new things and ways that they can learn to apply this love of teaching across learning environments. So today we're going to work on your growth mindset around teaching across learning environments. And we're going to start with these 3 components of growth mindset for yourself. So we have flexibility, which is the ability to change course to address challenge at hand. Innovation, the ability to look outside the box and take on challenges with design thinking mentality. And role awareness, allowing yourself to take on different roles to promote student-driven learning. So when we bring these 3 components into play around technology, we can shift how we think about what's happening. So we're going to take a moment, and this is the first box on your note catcher. I'm going to play 3 really short videos. None of them are even 2 minutes that are about those to help you think about flexibility, innovation, and role awareness. And as we do, you can take notes or jot down any words that stand out to you in the boxes. but I want you to be ready afterwards to have a moment to think about which component are you best at, which one is most challenging to you, or possibly think about something that you used to do, but now you're going to do differently. So let's go here to share. And I just ask that, I believe I have done this so that when I share, you'll be able to hear the sound, but if y'all will just let me know in the chat once it starts, that would be very, very helpful. All right, so first we're going to start with flexibility.
The skills teachers need to be successful in a blended classroom are very similar to the traditional model. You have to have patience. You have to be creative. But I think the biggest thing is flexibility. You have to be able to adapt to whatever's happening in the room because the students are not directly in front of you. You have to figure out a management system that works for controlling an entire classroom of kids without being able to interrupt what you're doing at the moment.
When you are doing something entirely new like this, there's just going to be a lot of hiccups and a lot of wrinkles, and just teachers being in the mindset that that's how it is, that's part of the adventure, that's part of the journey of blended learning can really help them to be prepared for what's ahead.
Sometimes technology is not going to work that day. The internet may be down, something may have gone wrong, the codes may not be working. So you have to be willing to change quickly and you have to be willing to adapt.
All right, so take a moment, just jot down anything that stood out to you about flexibility. Directly as it pertains to teaching with technology. And now we're going to watch a little video about innovation, being innovative or thinking about technology.
So you have 14 left over now? Okay. One big mindset that teachers need in order to make blended learning work for their classroom is a huge positive attitude. And persevering, like you tell your kids, persevere through it, you have to persevere through and try different things that actually work for you.
It's incredibly important for them to just be okay trying new things, right? To go outside of what they think is appropriate for their students, and to kind of push beyond that and to see what's possible.
I think the key skill a teacher needs to be successful in a blended classroom is adaptability and willingness to learn. I think that you don't have to be a technological genius, but I think you need to be open and willing to take the dive, and that's the biggest step, and be okay with failing, and be willing to ask questions and ask for help.
You have to be a learner, and as teachers, sometimes we're not always learners. This discipline, this movement is constantly changing, and I think to stay ahead of the game and to stay with the game and with the times, you are constantly reading and asking questions and having a thought partner as well.
Things are going to change and things are going to be hard and it's going to be kind of chaotic sometimes, but that innovation really makes it worth it. When we're trying new things, we're continually iterating. We need that mindset of it might be different tomorrow than it was yesterday, and it might be radically different in a month than it is today. We might drop this program that we're using and we might pilot a new program, but sort of that mindset of feeling like I'm excited to innovate, I'm excited to try new things. Teachers really need to embrace that to powerfully use blended learning in the classroom.
All right, so take just a moment to jot down anything about innovation. I see someone is having trouble opening the note catcher. I'm going to put the link in again. And for anyone who just came in, and then we'll look at role awareness, and then we're going to do a little reflection on that to take our mindset to the next level. I'm going to double check that the note catcher has the correct sharing permissions really quickly as well. While we watch the role awareness.
In a next-gen blended environment, a teacher mindset must not be about controlling behavior. It needs to be about inspiring student behavior. Probably what's most important are the skills the kids will learn about goal setting and making a plan and understanding how to learn. Those are the skills that the teacher needs to be facilitating.
Who did what, where, and she used. You can't be with every student at every moment, and so you have to let them take care of each other for a while. So releasing some of the control of classroom management is a big learning opportunity.
Children are using tools to learn and guide their learning versus me as the teacher standing in front of them and teaching them. They're driving their own instruction. I don't stand up there and tell everybody to be quiet and I'm teaching. It's more, okay, you know, what are we going to research today? Because we would have a list of the things that they want to learn, and then, well, how are we going to do it? But it's more exciting. I think everybody learns from everybody else, and I learn from them too.
Okay, so now I would love it if you would take, I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes, and you can do each of these prompts or you can choose one, but I want you to think in particular about those 3 principles of growth mindset and which do you think is most significant for you or which is most challenging for you, and reflect on thinking about what is it that I need to work on in my growth mindset to take me to the next level from wherever you started to the next place. And then we're going to have a moment to share. So everyone take a moment and think about that. And I'm going to just watch the time for us. 2 minutes. And you can go ahead and write this in the chat. Or you can come off of mute in a moment. So if you're getting the thing that says the link says you need access, this most recent link that allows you to make a copy, it should be correct. It has anyone with the link can edit. So when you make a copy, it should be correct. Oh, thank you. Y'all, this group is already putting lots of things in the chats. So we're going to take about 30 more seconds and then we're going to share together. All right, if you would like to share, please come off mute and share. I'm going to share some things with the chat. Sandra says we learn a lot from our students, so we need to be open-minded. And our students are some of the best people to learn about technology from. They know more than we'll ever know. It's just how it is. So that's crucial that we can come to them as learners. Denise says positive attitude is most significant. Always think of different solutions rather than focusing more on the problem. Carlene, that is such a huge point. So now we have the opportunity to think about how those technologies we were forced to use can become our allies. So instead of still focusing on the problem of I had to do this and I didn't want to. What can I take away from it to make it something that is turns into a benefit instead of just a detriment? We have a role awareness is most significant. We need to be open-minded to students' ideas and feelings. We're getting a lot of role awareness. Is there anyone who'd like to come off of mute and share with us? Flexibility is most significant to me because the world is constantly changing. Therefore, you have to be ready and willing to adjust. It's so true. Just between, so it's been 3 years. Last month was 3 years from the onset of, I'm going to say the dark time of the pandemic where school shut down, everything shut down, and we had to restart. 3 years, there's been so much change. A lot of it was pushed and forced by the pandemic. So then you have people who want to go right back to where we were, but there are things that have improved that we could actually take away that are exciting if we can let go of that trauma and embrace this growth mindset. So we have innovation, innovative ways we taught online may still be beneficial. Bring them back in, AKA online manipulatives, especially for students doing homework and needing the visuals. Yes. That's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so now what are we going to do? We've been thinking about our mindset, and now we're going to bring our mindset work to ed tech. So let's just get a common definition of ed tech. It's a combination of education and technology, and it refers to the hardware and the software designed to enhance teacher-led learning in classrooms and improve students' educational outcomes. So I want you to really lean into that teacher-led learning. The education isn't trying to take away from you. It's you as the teacher leader who knows what's best for your students, whatever age or stage they are in, that you can bring in to enhance and improve their learning in whatever environment, whether you're entirely face-to-face and you're bringing in technology, all the way to you're entirely online and you're deciding about technology. So right now, I want you, I went too far. I want you to reflect with me on how students in your class are interacting with technology currently. Like, think about today in your class. Did you bring in technology? How was it used? And think about what that says about the use of the technology your students have in your classroom, what it says about your beliefs related to the value of instructional technology. And who's willing to share with us today how your students were interacting with technology? If not today, the past week. So, we have Raz Kids. People were on Raz Kids today. And Michelle, I'm going to pick on you because you are the fastest in the chat. Is that something that happens every day? Do your students use technology regularly in the classroom? What does this say? Yeah, go ahead.
I might be broken up a bit, but we use Zern 30 minutes a day to complete 150 minutes online for Zern. It's part of the math curriculum. Then we use iReady, 1 period for reading, 1 period for math at the end of our day. And then Epic, we use, and Raz Kids during guided reading. We'll have a group that's technology-based with 15-minute rotations, as well as they do use Raz Kids and Epic for homework, because some students have purchased the Epic after school hours. So we do have that for reading as well.
Whoa, that's a lot. And as I'm looking in the chat, a lot of people are there with you. I see a lot of Epic and Raz Kids. I also see that someone's still using Google Classroom. So I work with students in the afternoons, and all of those students are still on Google Classroom. So there's benefits of what we had to switch to that we can still incorporate there. If you scroll through the chat, you're going to see so many different ways that this technology is in the classroom. And so what's interesting to me, and for you don't have to answer this, but I just want you to think about it yourself based on your level of how much you like using technology. Do you feel that this has been forced on you, or is this something that you're using willingly and can see as something that's helpful to students? So, and there's not a right or wrong, that's a mindset. So if you're coming from the trauma of teaching during a pandemic where you were forced to switch to Google Classroom in a way that you weren't ready to do or prepared for, then you may have residual bad feelings towards it. That makes sense. So how can we then now look at it and say, all right, what about Google Classroom is really helpful to some of our students? For example, a lot of the kids I work with have executive function issues, and the calendar in there is so helpful. So what are the things we can lean into? And that might be different for different teachers, different grade levels, and different stages of where they are in their journey of embracing technology. So thank you for sharing all the different ways and sharing what's worked for your students. And I love this. Google Classroom has helped them be more independent. And so Tiffany says she doesn't feel like it was forced, but you may be thinking I was forced and I'm forced to still use it. And that's completely legitimate. And now we're asking you to take small steps towards thinking about how you can take that power back and make it work for you. So how do we do that? How do we make that work? There are some models and frameworks that can help us, that when we switched to online teaching in the pandemic, we didn't have time for research. There was no, let's go look at the best model to do this. It was like, oh my gosh, how do we get these kids online so they can have school and not lose all of the year? But we're going to learn today for two really great models for teaching across learning environments. And one is SAMR and one is EEE. So let's start with SAMR. And I love this visual because it links this to coffee, and I love to drink coffee, and the fancier, the better. So SAMR has substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And that is how we think about the technology. So let's go through that, and then I'll share some examples. So in substitution, the tech acts as a direct tool substitute with no functional change. That's your straight up black coffee. And our next slide, we'll look at examples of each of these. Augmentation, the tech acts as a direct tool substitute with some functional improvement. So in the first one, we just switched it out. And then in the second one, we switch it out and it's slightly better than it was before. Modification, the tech allows for significant task redesign. So here we start to rethink how we do something with the technology involved, not just substituting a note-taking situation. And redefinition, tech allows for the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. This is the most exciting one to me, because this is where we get the technology to really work for us in ways to let us do things we could not ever have done before. So for example, if we think about note-taking, a substitution is just taking notes using iOS notes. Augmentation would be students choosing their own notes app. Modification, all students use Notability for all notes. And redefinition, teachers then have access to all students' notes. So if I have that, I can see just by a simple sampling who's with me and who's not. So we'll go over one more. We can think about assessment. We could have a Google form test. That's a simple substitution. Augmentation, we can have a Google form test with automatic marking scripts, so it's easier for you. With modification, we have creative projects with Strip Designer, Showtime, or iMovie, so that the assessment is not just a test, but we're showing our learning in other ways. And then we can have creative assessment with unlimited imagination power, between you and the students of showing how they have gained the knowledge that they have. All right. So let's now talk about Triple E framework, because I'm going to give you a brief overview so you can decide which one you want to learn more about. And then I have some choices of resources for you to look at to learn a little more about today. So the Triple E framework is engage, enhance, and extend. And it asks you to consider these questions when you think about bringing technology in to your teaching. Does the technology engage? So does it help students focus on the assignment or activity? Is it motivating to start the learning process? And does it cause a shift from being a passive learner to an active learner? How do I get you to be really hands-on engaged with this technology? And enhance, does the technology help students develop a more sophisticated understanding of the content? Does it provide scaffolds? And does it create unique paths for performance-based learning and assessment that cannot be achieved by other tools? So we're not just using technology for its own sake, but because we're thinking very considerately how it enhances what we're doing. And if the way we teach it right now is better, we don't add the technology just because it's slick. And extend, does the technology provide opportunities to learn outside traditional learning environments? Does it provide bridges that connect students' cultural and social lives? And does it draw from and further develop skills that they use in their everyday life? And here's the big takeaways. Both of these have three things in common that you need to keep in mind as you're thinking about integrating technology into your learning. And that is, you begin your teaching and use of technology from where you are currently confident in your instructional practice and build from there. So you just keep putting excellent teaching first and then start finding ways to build technology in from that experience and confidence. So when we went to emergency remote teaching, that went out the window. Everybody had to get on Google Classroom, whether they felt comfortable or confident. It didn't matter because it was the only way we could reach our children. Now we have time to stop and say, I am really good at this project is really cool. How could we make it better for our students by bringing in intentionally a piece of technology? You want to focus on integrating technology in ways that support learning goals and objectives. Technology for the sake of technology isn't useful, and this is the big takeaway. It can even be counterproductive. So again, very thoughtfully putting it in places where it actually is going to make something better. And number three, you do not have to do it all at once anymore. You probably shouldn't anyway. You can try technology tools in ways that are meaningful and manageable to you. So these three takeaways are how you're going to slowly start to bring in different technologies using these two models. So here's our learning objective now. You're going to learn more about, you're going to pick, do I want to know more about SAM-R right now, or do I want to know more about Triple E? And on your note catcher, it has resources for you. So if you want to learn more about SAM-R, you can read or you can watch. And if you want to know more about Triple E, you have something you can read or watch. And you have a little place that you can take notes with your big thinking, how can I use this framework in my practice for me, thinking about these three big pieces where I'm going to start where I am in ways that make sense for my learning. So we're going to have about 8 to 10 minutes to look at these resources, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms where you can share ideas or ask questions. And yes, I am happy to resend the note catcher. All right, so your job now is for the next 8 or so minutes to choose to learn more about SAM-R or Triple E. and you can read or watch and be prepared to share some ideas you've had of how you might use one of these models and bring them into your teaching. And when the 8 minutes is up, I will put you into a breakout room. If this makes sense to you, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. And I'm going to set a timer for us. Thanks for the thumbs up, Patricia. I know one person out there is with me. Yay. Uh, our timer is about to go off, so I'm going to open the breakout rooms. You're going to click on join, and in your breakout room, please share some ideas you have about how you're going to use whichever model you've learned more about today to think about integrating more technology into what you're currently doing. All right, the rooms are open, so you should be able to join now. If you are having any trouble going to a breakout room, please let us know. I have an admin here who can help, and I can help get you where you need to be.
Like, una que le hicieron a Charlotte, something like cringeworthy. I was like, oh.
Did cheese turn heel or no?
Okay, everyone's coming back. We've almost got everyone back here. And we're going to have a moment now to wrap up. All right, let me share my screen. All right, it looks like everyone is back. Wonderful. So, okay, here we are. You were able to talk about in your group, hopefully, some ideas you have for your using these technology frameworks. And here's something I have on your note catcher that you can use after this professional development to think about this more in depth when you have time. And so it talks you through planning to integrate using SAM or Triple E. So it just asks you to use a favorite lesson plan and think of one student learning activity and one piece of technology. So you will have this available to help you think about as you plan, either evaluating a current technology that you already use using one of these models, or planning a new technology to use using one of these models so that you can become more familiar with them and how they can help you thoughtfully integrate technology for your students. All right, so now I would love if you could share any comments or questions you have either in the chat or I'm happy to talk to you. So I'm seeing some different people, what models they chose. I'd love to know what model you chose. I'd love to learn if you would like to come off and share anything interesting that you take away from this that you can go and use in your current, wherever you are, to help you move your mindset to the next level. And while we do that, I'm also going to share a link to a professional development survey. So we had a lot of people doing both models. So hopefully in your group, you were able to talk with someone or several someones who had some ideas of how they were going to use this technology. All right, and I'm going to put in the chat, I'm going to put the link to the professional development survey that is very short. We would ask you to fill out. And I also want to take a moment to show you, we have other professional developments that build on this series. So you're here at A, planning and preparation to think about teaching across learning environments. We have building classroom community coming up, I believe in 2 weeks, assessment and reflection in the assessment cycle. So on your note catcher, you also have the link to sign up for more free professional development from Solved on this topic and many other topics in the TAIL Academy if you're interested. And if you have any questions about content, please feel free to contact me. This is also available in the slides on your.
I'm almost done. Yeah, I'm in a meeting.
All right. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share, Camilla asked any examples of using. I do not have any examples of those. If anyone else does, could you please share with Camilla? And if you open your form, you're free then, because it's 3:29 and I promise we did on time, please open your professional development form, survey form, and then you're free to exit out of our Zoom. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you. And know that an email with all of the information you need, as well as your professional development credits, will be coming to you from Solved. And people who are saying thank you in the chat, thank you. I appreciate it that you came. I hope you learned some interesting information to help you think about integrating technology. And I hope to see you here again at another Solve Professional Development. Thank you for coming today. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
So I just wanted to mention, because I did mention it in my group, that I liked some of the components of the EEE, where Dr. Cole wrote a book about it, but when I looked at the recording and mentioned time on task, that there was a focus on the learning goals, that they wanted to make sure that there was active engagement and co-use, because there should be another another person working together, students working together, so that there would be a human component to it. So that really stood out for me. And I could see it in action. And what I said, I worked with Hatch, and Hatch is sort of focused on the objectives, on the learning objectives. And there's games on it that students can play together. So I just wanted to mention that, and just to tell you that learning anything about technology really is valuable for me at this stage, because that's where we're going in education. So it's just really nice that this workshop was given today. Thanks.
Oh, thank you for sharing. And I love your point that the technology with another person, that it's not just a kid in technology, it's how is technology bringing us together in interesting and innovative ways. And I'm so glad that you have that mindset that, yes, this is not going away. This is where we're going. How can we as teachers shape it in ways that work for us and our students? All right, as soon as if you're done with your form, or if you'd like to do it offline, you're welcome to go. It's 3:33. I'm happy for you to stay here for a few more minutes before I close the room, if you're taking a moment to finish up your survey. But about 3:36, I will be closing down this room. Have a very lovely day.